Hello, family. How you doing? This is another episode of Unfiltered with Bob Z on the podcast where we promise to keep it real for you. You know, we have a very special guest in the house. One of the, when we think about, people, a lot of times, people look at like what, they elected or they doing this or they doing. But it's a lot of people that's on the ground, man. It's a whole lot of people that's on the ground that sometimes we may overlook. We may not, because of, I guess, I don't know if it's the mentality in this area, but I kind of tend to lean that way. And so that's just how I get down. But today we have Michael Scott of Parents Coaching Parents Network. You are the CEO, right?
CEO and founder.
CEO and founder. Okay. Well, we're going to get right to the questions because it's a very interesting concept. I found parents coaching parents because, some of the things we're doing now, we don't have what we like to call peer support, and that's probably one of the things that, back in the day probably kept us out of trouble more than anything else. We have somebody around us that say, yo, dude, we ain't doing that. And so, your peers was the thing. So I want to get to like the questions, and the first questions is, I guess, I don't even know how I can start a show without talking about the pandemic, regardless. I mean, regardless of whatever else is going on. But the pandemic has moved so many people in the direction of serving the community. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I think we just looked at it as from the perspective of, well, what are we going to do now? So people, and then on top of that with the social justice thing, so everybody is kind of, trying to do their thing. And I'm like, okay, I welcome it. But what I like to talk to you about, because you've been in it for a minute. This ain't a new thing to you. And so tell us how you got started and what are some of the goals and aims of your organization?
Okay, well, one thing that really and truly got me started with the Parents Coaching Parents Network and the value that was added to it was during the time that my son was going through the recruiting process.
Oh, wow.
And, colleges was out there and they knew about them, but nobody was really showing any interest. And so I started asking questions as far as, hey, what should I be doing? And the different people that I talked to would give me various answers.
Right.
And so that said, okay, something's wrong. There has to be at least a road or a pathway that somebody can put me on. Or just hand me a book. I can read.
Right.
You give me a book, I can read.
Yeah, right.
So, in moving forward, I reached out to the school. And when I reached out
what school was that? We can put him on. No.
I reached out to his high school, and everybody know he came from Deep Creek.
Creek.
I spoke to one of the school officials.
Right.
And so I asked about, what should I be doing as a parent?
Wow.
Because I noticed that it wasn't a whole lot of things going on, and parents, they wasn't sharing the information. So one of the officials at the school said, well, hey, everybody's not going to have a chance to attend the level of college that your son's going to have a chance to attend.
Right.
Well, like you just said, let's keep it real. That wasn't your call. That's the way I seen it.
Right.
If you telling me that everybody's not going to have a chance to attend the same level of school, okay, so what? They still need the information. So that's what caused me to start putting together this concept of the Parents Coaching Parents Network.
Okay.
Because the more and more I learned, the more and more I wanted to share. I have that give back nature. It's in my DNA.
That's what it takes.
One of those type of guys that, hey, I'll give it back to you. I'll serve you, whatever. That's how it is. So as a result, I started coming across different pieces of information, and as I got my hands on the information, I started sharing that information with other parents. And we went on a visit to Temple University and spoke with the legendary Coach John Chaney.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You spoke with Chaney?
The Godfather. He was still he was still coaching during that time period, and he was recruiting Mike.
Okay.
And so at the time, I was like, okay. And I told him about, this thing about parents coaching parents and, just having a parent support group, so on and so forth. And he said, hey, move forward with it. Go ahead. He said, I'll support you in any way possible. So I connected with Coach John Chaney when he was recruiting Mike out of Temple University.
Okay.
And he just validated everything I was thinking. And by him validating it and being in the game for as long as he had been in the game, I looked at that as that was a golden nugget. That was one of those things that you just can't push to the side. When you're talking about basketball, you're talking about African American, you're talking about young men, because he was doing some positive things up there, at Temple University with the young men that he had.
He's legendary.
That's it. So how all that came into play was just him giving me the okay. And then from there, as we talk about and think about some of the goals and directions I want to take this organization, I want this to be a catalyst for a national movement.
Right.
Where information is being shared with parents around the country.
Okay.
In all aspects. And as I primarily focus on sports, I can also talk about other things and other aspects of our society.
Well, let me ask you this though, right? What we said information. So let's say I got a what they call it, A1, a Gold Star, or
blue chip.
Blue chip. There you go.
As you and I would say.
Blue chip athlete.
Okay.
That's over here in Chesapeake, and I have some parents that doing the same thing in Hampton, or Newport News. I mean, and so what type of information would you share?
Well, that's the funny part, because a lot of parents don't know.
Right.
And actually, I'm working on a book, and it should be out by the end of this year. And the title of the book is "You Don't Know What You Don't Know About Athletic Scholarship."
Okay.
And it's all about just putting information out there that is not a normal, honest conversation that you would hear from a parent's perspective.
Okay. I feel you.
Because parents are handed the guidebook for college-bound student athletes. It's a book that the NCAA puts out. They're handed that book, and they can look through that book, and they can read the pages, and then from there say, okay, well, I'm ready. No, you're not, because you're not ready to deal with that college coach that's a professional salesman.
Wow, yeah, that's their job.
Exactly. So you're not ready to deal with him. You're not ready to deal with his questions, his line of questions, how he's going to, manipulate your child, or how he's going to connect with your child and form that bond with your child. You're not ready for any of that kind of stuff. And then you're not ready for all the outside folks that may come into play.
You got your boosters, and you got all kind of people that.
Oh man, you got boosters, you got street runners, you got so-called scouts, you got wannabe scouts, you got fake agents, you got.
Well, look, I don't want to cut you off, but look,
no,
we got to back this up a little bit, because we're talking to you. So, who is your son?
Okay.
I know. We just assuming that everybody know, right?
I'm sorry. My son is Mike Scott, 8th year in the season with the Philadelphia 76ers.
Is that right?
Initially started out with Atlanta Hawks and played 5 years with the Hawks.
Okay.
And then moved on from there, from the Hawks to the Wizards for about a year, and then from the Wizards out to the Clippers for a half a season.
Okay.
And then last season and a half, he's been with the Sixers.
Okay. Well, that's one thing I find is that this area, man,
Chesapeake native.
It's deep, the creek. This area has a really good history of that. I wanted to segue just a little bit, because I was looking, whenever I talk to somebody, I try to research them and talk to them and find out really what they're doing what their motivation is, and so parents, coaching parents, I mean, it's a great way to enlist peer support. But you just launched a new program that goes right, what I call, you went right into the belly of the beast, with respect to the situation at hand, was shooting unarmed black folk and, all different type of things, or maybe sometimes the unfiltered, sometimes it's black folk shooting black folk, and so now I was watching the debate the other night, and it's like they got something called the Proud Boys. I'm like, come on, man, stop playing, But at the same time, you got to make it home. You know what I'm saying? So tell us about your new program or the program that you recently launched, and tell us about what that's all about.
Okay. And actually, I can't even put claim to that. That's a new initiative that was started by parents of professional basketball players.
Okay.
There's a group of us that have gotten together based upon looking at the situation that the Bucks experienced when they had to shut the game down.
Right, I remember that.
A couple weeks ago. So
I remember that.
A couple parents said, hey, all right, we have to show our support to our kids, and how are we going to do that? So one thing that they decided to do was this Get Home Safely campaign.
Okay.
And turned it into a national movement. And the other thing, of course, is the voting. But I think what you're talking about is the Get Home Safely campaign.
I am.
And that Get Home Safely campaign has 10 steps. I keep saying 12 steps. I don't know why I want to add 2 more
all
steps.
the other programs got 12 steps. Not that
Yeah, exactly. We want to avoid those programs. We want to stick with this 10 step. It's 10 steps or 10 talking points that help you think about the situation when you're stopped, either just walking down the street or whatever you're doing, or you're stopped while you're, a traffic stop.
Right.
About getting home safely, and then highlights and identify some things that if you put these 10 things into consideration each and every time,
wow,
your potential to get home safely has risen. Now we don't know what that fool on the other end of the blue uniform or whatever is going to do.
Right.
And I hate to call him a fool, but the ones that's out there doing the things that they're doing, they are. Because they're not doing with any justification.
Well, like I always say, some jobs you just can't have bad apples. Yeah,
exactly.
I know. I mean, it's like I'm just and they get on me all the time because I have a discussion with a lot of people in law enforcement, and I'm saying it cannot be that difficult just not to shoot us. It can't be that hard. I mean, I'm not gonna back up off of that. But look, one of the things I'm doing right now, I'm teaching virtually every day. In high schools. And, one of the things I see lacking is the parent piece, right? And especially in the financially disadvantaged households. I was thinking of doing a training that would help those parents better monitor the schoolwork. Is there any thought, just from you, just on how that could be a part of not necessarily the parents coaching parents, but in a way, my vision is kind of like, from the perspective of some of the teachers or some of the other parents that don't, that are, let's keep it real, that are, computer savvy.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents are not, but there's, so what do you think about some kind of program like that?
Well, I think that'd be a great concept. And it's going to cause me to switch hats right now. Because I am also the host of the Hampton Roads NAACP show.
Is that right?
That airs every Saturday morning on 1350 a.m. If you ain't mind me giving a quick shout.
No, go shameless plug. Go ahead and make it happen.
But,
make it happen.
I've been doing that show for probably the last 10 years, and the guy that got me started, he was on probably, 15 to 20 years prior to me, and he kept me going all the way up until last year, and he passed on. But coming to you from that perspective,
right,
and being in Norfolk Public School system on a daily basis where I currently work, we as adults have to step up our game.
Indeed.
We have to step up our game in the sense of quit being afraid of technology.
Right.
Right. our kids, and I've watched it unfold several times. Our kids can pick up a device, get a brand new device, you hand them the box, and within 10 or 15 minutes, they know everything about that device, how to get on it, how to manipulate it, how to switch the code on it, how to, as they would say, jailbreak it, and do everything else. But we as parents, we sit back and if we don't just go to our little simple apps that we go to, Candy Crush or Facebook, and read somebody else's business or whatever, we stay away from it. We got to start upping our game on the technology side. That way we're better and able to help our kids.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And, one of the things that, I guess I teach virtually, and I teach it, and it's funny that I already know, and I tell them, I say, well, your generation is not that technology, as far as, don't have that much savvy, and that's how I kind of fool the kids. But, but I'm like, when you're in the classroom sometimes, they're like, well, I don't know how to do it. I'm like, come on, man, you took apart the whole phone system. I know you know how to do it. But so that's something that I just think that would be a good thing. And one of the, I got a couple more questions, but really quick, I served in the early 2000s and I started out as a single parent, so that's how I got involved in the PTA. Mm-hmm. And I was elected twice as the president of the PTA citywide Chesapeake, 44 schools and 45,000 students. And when they first found out, they were like, "Oh, you're Bob Williams." And I was like,
"Oh, yeah. Man!"
I was like, "Yeah, it's me." No,
okay.
I wasn't really that serious. But my thing is that, and we had such a difficult time getting black parents, African American parents, to come to the PTA meetings, and it saddened me to a point where, then I go to the games, the basketball games. It's like boom. We in there, and so one of the things I did, that's back when I get like Bruce Smith or Alonzo, whoever was in town.
Okay.
I get them to come to the PTA meetings, and boom, right then I had like 50 black dads in there, So, I just, how can we help improve upon, I know, and we good at sports, so I ain't mad at, parents that, want to come.
Gotcha.
Cheer, that's a good, that's something that's positive that we do. And sports teaches a lot of different things, teamwork and, all that kind of thing. So I'm not writing off sports, but I'm saying, how can we get a little more enthusiasm for the academic piece?
Well, one thing that I'm going to roll out on that with is we have to understand the value in it.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's our children that's going to be shortchanged. And if you understood the value enough to go to that football game to make sure that the coach is getting your child in the game, or, you making sure you writing down your son's stats or your daughter's stats so you can put together a highlight tape and send it, you need to make sure that what that child is being taught, especially now,
right.
in the year of 2020.
Oh, my God.
I said something about 2020 the other day on the Hampton Roads NAACP show. I said, it's funny because 2020, as we think about 2020, when we always hear that, we think about sight. You and I, we sitting there here with our glasses on, but at one time we had 2020.
I had 2040.
Yeah,
I was a beast.
And one time we had that good 2020.
Right.
And we wanted to maintain that perfect sight. So as we think about the year of 2020, we want to think about that same thing. All the things that have been exposed to us throughout this year. All the mistreatments of folks in our community. Mm-hmm. The covers have been pulled back.
Oh my God!
It's not just about the disease or the virus, the pandemic. It's about this social injustice pandemic that we're dealing with. The covers have been pulled back. Things have been exposed to us that we would have never thought about before, or we would have overlooked. And when I say overlooked, we got to think about all these things that our children have been taught over the years about history.
Right.
Now, is somebody going to take into consideration and revamp these history books or rewrite these history books because there's a whole lot of
misinformation,
as you would say, Carter G. Woodson.
Crazy.
Misinformation that's been put out there.
The American nigga. You know, one of the things, Mike, you know, I said this, you know, not to cut you off, but I said that if people weren't home, because I mean, you know, these killings of unarmed black men and women, I mean, it's been going on for a minute.
Yeah.
But if people weren't home for the pandemic, then everybody couldn't have been eating their lunch, watching George Floyd be killed or strangled with somebody. Everybody was home.
Yeah.
Everybody saw it because everybody was home. So I always take, and I say this and I'm going to shut up. Well, for a minute anyway. But, you know, I'll start at the starting line with anybody. You know, but we as a people, we've been like, we started like, you know, when we was young, it'll be always somebody that can run real fast in the neighborhood and they'll take their shoes off. And they'll say, I'll give you a head start.
Okay.
You know, and I was like, well, I'll take a head start. And they'll walk you down. You know, there's always somebody, I'm telling you, there's always one guy in the neighborhood that could walk everybody down and run in the middle of the street with no shoes on. And so, just to say this, that like, you know, for this pandemic, it kind of was a reset. You know, and from my personal perspective, I was like, I'll start with, and put me at the same starting line, I'll start with anybody.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And so, look, I got a final thing. We got to get out of here. But, you know, I did want to get your final message because you're a very interesting guy. I respect what you're doing in the community. And like I said, sometimes, you know, I guess I hate when they say unsung hero, you know. No, I want to be sung. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you're a sung hero. You know what I'm saying? We giving out the song awards.
Either way, that don't bother me, brother. I'm going to get mine. Mine's going to shine through it at the end of the day.
But the satisfaction is within.
Yes, sir.
You know, and so finally, my message, I want you just to like give out like a message to the young people. And what is your message to the parents?
You know, my message to the young folks, and I started out talking about it when we opened up with the questions. You know, my biggest concern and biggest fear and biggest issue right now is the Get Home Safely campaign. And them understanding the value behind that opportunity to think about what they're doing, humble themselves, and make sure that they do get home safely. Because they don't realize their life has so much value, you know.
Indeed.
that we don't even know, because years from now, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, they could have turned out to be senators and congressmen.
Indeed.
And made major changes in our community.
Indeed.
So we can't overlook that. We can't shy away from that. So, folks, I know, you know, I initially started out talking about sports. Sports all ties into that, because sports is nothing more than a microcosm of what we deal with in life. You know, so once we take that and understand that if you're involved in sports, hey, use it to your advantage. If you're not involved in sports but you like it, you still use it to your advantage. If you have nothing to do with sports, I understand that as well. But understand, your life is that important. Your life is that valuable for you not to humble yourself for that few seconds, get home safely, and understand that you have a bigger goal in life other than dealing with some fool out there on the street. And for the parents, and I'm going to wrap it up here with this, for the parents, we have to be supportive. We have to be able to work with and through each other.
Right.
You know, just as you and I sit here today, I had never met you. I knew the brother that invited me out here, and he connected us, and you know, from there. But now we have established our connection.
Right.
You know, I'm running around the hallway looking like a chicken with the head cut off, and you say, "Hey, brother, I'll come get you, stand by the elephant." You know, you could just let me. Well, I'm around here at such and such.
No, that's not how we do it.
But we have to be able to work with and through each other. And one of the goals and models that I use with the Parents Coach the Parents Network is help us help you. And I'm going to extend that out to any and everybody that's listening to this podcast that you're connected to, that, you know, understand that is value in numbers.
All right.
And as long as we can deal with that, hey, we're going to be all right.
Right. Well, we're going to leave it right there. But, one of the things that I just want to add in closing is that, we have got to come together. And I just want to thank Brother Scott for coming out here and just, coming out here and just being a part. And I guarantee you, if you listen to this podcast, you're going to get something out of it. I want to thank you for coming out. And look, listen to the podcast. We keep it unfiltered at Bob Z Unfiltered. You know what I mean? Let's do it. See you later. See you next time.